Welcome to the studio at That Nerd Show. I'm Marcus Blake, and this is your daily nerd news for Friday, January 31st, 2020. Our top stories of the day take us to TV and streaming news, and we start with something from Netflix. It looks like that The Crown has been renewed through 5 seasons as of this week. The Crown is set to end with its 5th season, and it will star Imelda Staunton playing Queen Elizabeth in her later years. The surprise news came just after the premiere of Season 3 of Netflix royal drama and ahead of Season 4 of the Left Bank produced series. Staunton has been rumored to take on the role of Queen Elizabeth for a couple of months, but now we can officially confirm the casting, and they basically pulled down the curtain on the series. And unlike Claire Foy or Olivia Colman, she will, however, only play Her Majesty for 1 season. Creator Peter Morgan has long said that he imagined The Crown running for 6 seasons, but today admitted that he began working on stories for Season 5, and it became clear that this is the perfect time and a place to stop. He also was quoted as saying that I'm grateful to Netflix and Sony for supporting me in this decision. In other Netflix news, for fans of Adam Sandler re-ups his deal with Netflix for 4 more movies. That's right, folks. We're going to be seeing a little bit more with Adam Sandler at Netflix. Netflix is staying with Adam Sandler, as they said this week, and following the successful release of the Jennifer Aniston and Sandler-led comedy Murder Mystery, the streaming giant said Friday that it is extending the deal with Sandler and Happy Madison Productions to make 4 more movies. Sandler and Netflix have been in business since the release of the 2015 The Ridiculous Six, and Netflix claims that since then, its subscribers have spent more than 2 billion hours watching Sandler flicks. That includes The Do-Over, Sandy Wexler, The Week Of, and Murder Mystery, which the company says was the most popular title on Netflix in the U.S. last year. He also released his first stand-up special in 22 years on the streamer service. In addition, Happy Madison has produced 2018's Father of the Year and the upcoming movie The Wrong Missy. So there you have it, folks. We'll be seeing a lot more of Adam Sandler at Netflix. Now we turn our attention to film news. We have some breaking news coming out of Sundance this week. Justin Simien's Bad Hair nears its 8 million plus worldwide Pact with Hulu and plus a theatrical rollout. Bad Hair was one of the buzz titles of Sundance Film Festival since it premiered last Thursday at the Ray, and it's nearing its worldwide rights deal north of 8 million with Hulu. The pick is a horror satire directed by Dear White People's creator Justin Simien and has been chased hard by suitors, including Lionsgate and Netflix. It looks like Hulu will make this its second major deal of Sundance, this after the $17.5 million for Palm Springs. Hulu made the deal with Neon, and it will have to add a theatrical distributor for Bad Hair because the deal calls for global theatrical release with a P&A spend. Simien's Dear White People was turned into a TV series, and he is shaping up to be a strong multicultural world creator. As for the film's financier, Sight Unseen, this is the second biggest deal of the last 2 festivals. This after the whopping $16.5 million sale of Hugh Jackman, Allison Janney star Bad Education to HBO. The film will star The film stars Elle Lorraine, Vanessa Williams, Jay Farrow, Lena Waithe, Blair Underwood, Laverne Cox, and James Van Der Beek. The horror satire is set in 1989, and an ambitious young woman gets a weave in order to succeed in the image-obsessed world of music television. However, her flourishing career may come at a great cost when she realizes that her new hair may have a mind of its own. And there you have it. In other streaming news, we turn our attention to Disney Plus. Owen Wilson will be joining the Marvel Universe in the Loki series. He is headed to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The actor is in talks to join the Disney Plus show Loki, And according to sources, his character details are hidden in Odin's vault, so to speak. Loki stars Tom Hiddleston as the trickster god he has played since 2011's Thor. The character died in 2018's Avenger Infinity War. However, due to a time travel storyline, Loki appeared briefly in 2019's Avengers Endgame. It is that version of Loki that audiences will follow in the Disney Plus series. Ricky and Morty writer Michael Waldron is writing the pilot for Loki and will act as the show creator and executive producer to the series. Loki is one of the multiple shows Marvel Studios is producing for Disney Plus, including Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Hawkeye, and What If. But that's right, we get Owen Wilson joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe, playing a key role in the Loki series. Once we find out who, we will definitely let you know. And now we turn our attention to gaming news. The first news item has to do with the Resident Evil 2 remake that came out last year. What if you could play Geralt from The Witcher in this game? That's right. A new mod has surfaced for the game that lets you play Geralt from The Witcher. You can check out the video of the mod on YouTube. The Resident Evil 2 remake is no stranger to mods that swap out characters like the one that makes Mr. X the horrible goose from the Untitled Goose Game, or the one that turns him into Pennywise from it, or another that lets you play as Ellie from The Last of Us. There are dozens more different characters that you can play, but there's a new one featuring Geralt from the Witcher series. And it pits him against Mr. X, against perhaps his most formidable foe yet. The mod comes from Will Wiltz, also who developed a mod that replaces Claire with Ciri. Unlike the Ciri mod, though, the one that replaces Leon with Geralt features facial animations, making things look a bit more natural. To note, the Geralt mode isn't compatible with any of the Resident Evil Remakes DLC costumes, with the exception of Arklay Sheriff. And while it's to be expected you can't actually wield Geralt's silver and steel swords, the best you can do is use a knife while the sword stays strapped to Geralt's back. Or you can throw authenticity to the wind, equip a shotgun, and imagine Geralt's gleeful amazement of technology killing power. PC players can download the Resident Evil 2 Remake Geralt mod over the Nexus mods. But do note that you'll also need to download the Fluffy Quacks mod manager for the installation. Our last news item for gaming has to do with the game Death Stranding. There is a new update that lets you disable that annoying BT cutscene. Okay. So, we all know that Death Stranding is full of cutscenes. Anybody who has played the Kojima production game before could have told you that even before it ever came out. Lengthy cinematics packed with expositional dialogue and landscapes and photography are what we all signed up for with this game, right? But there's one cutscene in particular that has proven particularly grating for dedicated players. So, Kojima Productions is finally giving you the option to turn it off. The cutscene in question is the one that plays every time you encounter BTs out in the world. Sam stops in his tracks, the camera zooms in on his abroidic scanner as it slowly deploys and does a twisty calibration dance. Then the camera zooms back out. It takes about 10 seconds in total, which is fine at first, but it gets pretty old by the 20th time you're just trying to lug some deliveries through BT territory, and you'll still have to stop and watch your Obrick do this thing. Well, anyway, the new update, which went live today, January 31st, allows you to effectively turn it off with a new option in the settings menu. It will still play the first time, but after that it will automatically be skipped when you get close to a BT. You'll need to stay a little bit more alert to make sure you catch your scanner popping out before you blunder right into a BT, but it could be worth the trade-off just to avoid all the interruptions, especially if you're trucking along in a vehicle and you would have had to slam on the brakes to stop otherwise. there are other popular fan requests for Death Stranding in updates, and looks like that Kojima Productions is addressing those the best they can. But there you have it. You only have to do the BT cutscene once now with a new option in the settings. And that is what's going on in gaming news. And now for the question of the day. Is the new Star Trek Picard series the best Star Trek that we've had since Star Trek Nemesis? We are 2 episodes in the new series, Star Trek Picard, and I think it's safe to say that it's a bit of a hit. I mean, it's getting a lot of high praise from Star Trek fans. And it's great to be able to get back to Next Generation characters. But the reason we posed this question is the last time that we saw the Next Generation cast all together was in the film Star Trek Nemesis. And, you know, well, it's a bit of a spoiler to those who haven't seen it. We know this is the movie that Data sacrifices himself to help save Captain Jean-Luc Picard, which also helps kind of set up what the Star Trek Picard series is about. The series is Picard having to help find a sentient being who doesn't know that she's a sentient being because they're outlawed now. And they're being hunted down by basically Romulan assassins. But anyway, while we've had Star Trek, we've had some interesting Star Trek since Nemesis. Why can't I just fucking get through this? Fuck you! Honest to fucking Christ! And now for our question of the day. Is the new Star Trek Picard series the best Star Trek that we've had since Star Trek Nemesis? We're 2 episodes into this highly praised series on CBS Access. I think it's safe to say that it's a bit of a hit. Star Trek fans are loving it. And while we've had other Star Trek movies and the end of a couple of series since the film Star Trek Nemesis, that movie is the last time that we saw the Next Generation cast all together. And if you remember, it's also the one where Data dies. He sacrifices himself to save Captain Jean-Luc Picard, which also helps set up part of the storyline for Star Trek Picard. Because the whole premise so far in the series, what we know is Picard is trying to help a sentient being who's being hunted down by Romulan assassins when sentients have been outlawed. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to pose the question because everybody seems to be loving the Picard series, and I'm one of them. Like, I watched the first episode 3 times in one day. And kind of a sub-question to this discussion is, I mean, doesn't it feel like Star Trek? I mean, it really does feel like we're watching, you know, a Next Generation series. Yes, it's shinier. You know, obviously the CGI is way better than when they filmed the series Star Trek Next Generation. But the same themes and everything that we loved about that series seems to have gone into Star Trek Picard. And everything we love about the captain. I mean, it's like that old familiar relative coming for a visit, you know. But even though we've had these J.J. Abrams films with a different timeline, we've had 2 seasons of Star Trek Discovery, and we saw them finish up 2 more seasons of Star Trek Enterprise, which was the prequel set 100 years before Kirk, starring, you know, it was Captain Jonathan Archer, who was commanding the first actual space trek of the Enterprise. And it was a great series, don't get me wrong. I think I'm one of the few that absolutely loves that series. But even I admit that doesn't hold the same weight or is as good as Star Trek The Next Generation. And I made the comment after the Star Trek Picard series came out that I hadn't felt that giddy about a Star Trek series in 33 years. Since the night I watched the premiere of Star Trek The Next Generation and my dad and I talked about Star Trek. So I couldn't wait to talk about Star Trek Picard. And, you know, here at that nerd show, you know, we as a staff, we were texting each other after watching it and just really loved what we saw so far. And it seems to be getting better with after the second episode. So we have to ask the question, I mean, is this really the best Star Trek since we had the last Next Generation film in Star Trek Nemesis? I would say yes. Nothing against J.J. Abrams' alternate timeline, Star Trek movies. They're fun, but it's not Star Trek. And like I said, Star Trek Enterprise, it was good, but not as good as past series. And Star Trek Discovery, while good, and while definitely better in the second season, it's still not as good, or we don't have the same love for that series as we do for Star Trek The Next Generation. And I say that because while I do love Discovery and have enjoyed it, and especially the second season where we really got to see a season with a Captain Pike and how he commanded the Enterprise and, Spock before Kirk. As I go back and I binge watch the Next Generation series while I'm waiting for another episode of Star Trek Picard, I'm being reminded after watching Picard and then going back and watching this series about how much I love the Next Generation characters and why it's better, and how Star Trek Picard makes me feel like this is real Star Trek. This is the way that I was meant to feel with these new series. So there you have it. Is the new Star Trek Picard series the best Star Trek since Star Trek, the film Star Trek Nemesis? We would love to hear from you at That Nerd Show. You can tweet us out on our Twitter account at That Nerd Show. But this will be a fun discussion topic as we head into the weekend. And we eagerly await the third episode of Star Trek Picard. So let us know what you think, if this is the best Star Trek since Star Trek Nemesis. Thank you for watching the Daily Nerd News Show. I'm Marcus Blake with That Nerd Show. And until the next time, have a great weekend. Goodbye.